It's Thursday, the 7th of March. They say 7 is the number of perfection. And who knows, it just might bring you some perfectly beautiful blessings. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. Well, right up, bright, early and sprightly to bring you your perfect day starter. And you know, I never do it alone. But first of all, of course, I am Bukola Koka and I'm here with my man. Good morning, guys. Welcome.
She had to caution herself just so that she doesn't forget, like me, that she's supposed to say her name. You brought that numerology thing this morning, but hey, welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. We're going to have a great time, I promise you.
Absolutely. I was just thinking, when you said 7, I was just picturing people that have 7 children at this time. I know.
They're not exempt.
Well, you know what? Welcome to the show. I'm Kayode.
So what's happening, guys?
Well, we woke up. We're here at work. Now we're still watching the numbers in the economy to see. Everybody wakes up to like, I think it's going to get better today. I think it's going to get better. And we hope. One thing we need to keep alive is hope. Yeah. Just don't stop. Don't lose faith. Sometimes you just have to do things your way, by your way, not necessarily illegal, but just keep that hope alive and do what you can to navigate this very challenging time, because it's challenging for everyone, but we will not give up. We'll continue to do what we can as individuals, as a nation, to make sure Nigeria becomes that dream country of the destination of everyone who wants to visit Africa. That's the idea. How soon? I don't know. How well? I don't know. But that we'll get there. I think we should get there someday.
Absolutely. One of the bright spots for me is the fact that it rained. Yeah, it was good after all the heat and the power situation. It was good to see that at least Providence has not forgotten us, even if the distribution companies have forgotten
us.
They have actually forgotten us.
You know, so I'm glad it rained, and I'm also glad you talked about hope. I know hope has become a political term now.
Yeah.
A lot of people avoid the word hope because of party affiliations. I think if you say hope, then you are APC. So don't use hope. Use another word. But hey, hope. We'd be using hope before the APC even became a thing. Before A, P or C, so you can actually hold on to hope without the political angle of it. That's very important. That's how we'll go through these times. So, hey, I'm positive, as always.
Well, I'm always positive as well. But speaking of hope, Kadi, I can't resist it. Some people have recast the renewed hope to become renewed hopelessness. But don't worry, it can only get better. As long as we keep hope alive and we look on the bright side of things and we continue to exert our energies in the right direction, of course, things are going to get better. But speaking of numbers this morning, and with regards to what we have for you, with 333 manufacturing businesses becoming distressed and 767 shutting down in 2023 alone, one is compelled to ask, is Nigeria's manufacturing sector facing imminent collapse? The MSMEs have also not been spared the challenges of price shocks, lack of raw material and exchange rate volatility. So today, what are we doing? We put faces and voices to those businesses struggling to survive. Of course, there just may be some success stories in that mix. So we'll be speaking with those manufacturers, those MSMEs who are struggling to survive amid the challenging business climate.
Well, talking about challenges, the president seems to have gotten the memo. So right now, he's trying his best to remove as much obstacles as possible. He initiated the amendment to our primary legislation to introduce fiscal incentive for oil and gas projects. Now, reducing contract costs is one of the things he hopes to achieve with this, as well as timelines, and also promote cost efficiency in local content requirement. What does this mean for the oil and gas sector? Now, you remember we have a legislation, a big one, called the PIA, Petroleum Industry and Governance Acts. And for what benefit will this be for Nigerians? How will it affect the PIA? The industry experts are going to help us understand the interaction, juxtaposing between an executive order as well as PIA, or an extant, what do they call it now? The extant legislation, to see how the industry can evolve.
Absolutely. But that's not all. Edo State is in the news again. Not like Edo State went out of the news, but you can bump the position up now. And this time, The political tension may be reaching fever pitch as the State Assembly has commenced proceedings to impeach embattled Deputy Governor of the state, Philip Shaibu. Now, while some may say, well, this is not surprising, what may be unpredictable will be the next turn of events ahead of a September governorship election. So join us as we review these interesting turn of events through the eye of a pundit. You know what they say? Edo no be
Lagos.
Did you say that?
I just said Edo no be.
No, that's the problem. Edo no be Lagos. Edo no be River. Edo no be.
Right?
It's what people say. It's fine.
Jeffrey. Rivers. What about Rivers? Is Rivers Lagos?
No, Rivers is Rivers.
Rivers is
for real.
Every state has its own identity.
The game in Rivers is not for the lily-livered. Is not for the faint-hearted. Is not for the one who is not. You can't be fearful and get in that game. So let's not even go there. So let's face Edo.
Well, Jeffrey, ahead of the 2023 presidential election, the traditional cap in Rivers changed to the one that is reminiscent of the one in Lagos. I just needed to remind you because things can get unpredictable sometimes.
Trust me, I understand how these things work, and it can be quite tricky. But you said about the issue of Philip Shaibu. Let's see how things play out at the end of the day, whether they will follow through with all of this. But hey, those are part of the conversation we intend to have today. Find out what exactly is going on in Edo State.
Indeed, and we hope to get some interesting answers. But that's not all. Of course, what's all of these without your contributions, your comments, and your videos to all that's happening? So send them, post to us at X, and of course, we'll be ready to take them. And don't forget to send your videos as well to our WhatsApp number. Please don't call, just send your videos. We'll authenticate them and we'll amplify them on your perfect day starter. Jeffrey calls it our community engagement with you. So we're right here, and after this break, it'll be time for the top stories on the morning brief. Thus, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning brief, and time now for the big stories. Starting in the FCT, results may be long in coming, but the federal government appears unrelenting in its efforts at tackling insecurity, as the Senate has resolved that the leadership of the National Assembly will meet with President Bola Tinubu over the security challenges in the country. This follows a motion of urgent importance raised by Senator Emmanuel Udende on the killing of over 50 people in fresh attacks in no less than 5 communities in Kwande, Ukum, Logo, and Kasinala local government areas of Benue State.
You get the same answer, nothing being done. Why do we have to continue to do the same thing? It's a question for the Senate.
We should insist on getting improvements, and of course, constitutional review is coming. I don't know what we can do better, but the security architecture in Nigeria today has failed woefully. And we have said this many times, even in the previous assemblies, that this thing is not working.
What we concluded now is most important, to get a team from the Senate and the House of Rep to get audience with the President in the presence of the service chiefs so that we take a decision that will yield result.
And a similar sentiment echoed at the House of Representatives, where lawmakers are calling for the urgent intervention of security agencies after it received an urgent motion stating that 17 local government areas in Katsina State have been overrun by bandits. Honorable Sada Soli, who moved the motion, informed the House that if urgent action is not taken, the entire state could come under the control of bandits.
Half of Katsina State is overtaken by bandits. Half of Katsina State. Half of Katsina State. My house, Mr. Speaker, my house is 600 meters to the camps of bandits. I don't know when I slept in my house. Last week, the governor wanted to go to a place where the bandits attacked. They sacked the whole village she couldn't break through.
Further aware that the minimum wage in Nigeria was increased by the president recently, but the purchasing power is low owing to the continued rise in the cost of living in the country and the fall of the naira. Worried that unless very immediate and pragmatic steps are taken to improve the income of Nigerians, more Nigerians will go down the economic line, with the poor population increasing. This, in effect, will lead to desperation and loss of faith in government.
In the meantime, the Nigerian army is making a strong demand on the remnants of Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast. The army is asking them to drop their weapons and surrender to the country's security forces. The call was made by the brigade commander, 28th Task Force Brigade of the Nigerian Army, Chibok, Borno State, Brigadier General Bede Amako, during the 2023 West Africa Social Activities of the brigade in Gulak, Adamawa State.
Operationally, the brigade made tremendous achievements in neutralizing several Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorist groups within its area of responsibility. This includes Aligana, a notorious and major logistics supplier, as well as second in command of the Boko Haram terrorist leadership in the Mandara Mountains. These results in the relative peace and tranquility we are enjoying in the northern Adamawa and southern Borno states, which has continued to boost socio-economic activities in these areas.
Well, it seems there are security concerns everywhere, this time in Akwa Ibom State, where the governor, Pastor Umoino, has threatened to wield the big stick on the caretaker committee chairman of any local government area that reignites communal clashes in the three coastal local government areas of Eket, Estate Eket, and Ibeno local government areas of the state. Governor Eno also announced government's decision to take over Stubbs Creek Forest Reserves, the main source of repeated clashes among the three local government areas for several years.
We know those responsible for this nonsense. And I want to say, after today's warning, we will fish them out. We will fish them out on both sides. So I'm asking and pleading with our political gladiators to soften the tone. We are leaders, and we cannot be sponsoring our young people to go out there and lose their lives. So I want to say that, don't think that I'm not aware. I know I have credible intelligence as to who is sponsoring and the people sponsoring all these things. And after this warning today, if it happens again, you'll be shocked that government will call you out. Pick you, and that's it. And I want to say to the three local government chairmen, please, you have the responsibility to maintain law and order in your domain. If anything happens in your domain again, you know you are transition chair, I'll remove you immediately.
That's as clear as it gets, right? To some politics now. Members of the Edo State House of Assembly have commenced proceedings to impeach the embattled deputy governor of the state, Philip Shaibu. The majority leader of the assembly, a member representing Ovia Northeast 1, announced this during the sitting, stating that the petition, which dated March the 5th, 2024, was endorsed by 21 out of the 24 lawmakers. The majority leader maintained that the number of lawmakers that signed the petition met the required 2/3 as stipulated in the Constitution.
We have a petition brought pursuant to section 188. Sub 1(2)(a) of the Federal Code. Mr. Speaker, the said petition is for an impeachment notice on the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Right Honorable Philip Shaibu. The said petition, sir, is sent by 21 members of the Edo State House of Assembly, which is by far above the one-third requirement as stipulated in the Constitution of the Federal Republic. I hereby mandated to cause the service of this notice to the respondents, Deputy Governor of Edo State, Right Reverend Philip Shire, from and he has 7 days to respond to this petition.
As we head to the courts, Court of Appeal Abuja has affirmed Julius Aburi as the national chairman of the Labour Party. Justice Hama Barka, who read the lead judgment, also set aside the judgment of the Federal Capital Territory High Court, which restrained Mr. Aburi and 2 others from parading themselves as national officers of the party. Justice Barka held that the High Court was wrong to have assumed jurisdiction on the matter. The Appellate Court also awarded the sum of 1 million naira in favor of Julius Aburi against Mr. Lamidi Akpakpa.
The party has always been on the positive side, that there has not been any form of division in Labour Party. It has just been confirmed by today's judgment. All we are saying is that our brothers out there should please come back. The party is open. The party is willing to readmit them. Whatever the party had wanted was a new Nigeria. And anyone that is desirous of a new Nigeria should please come and join Labour Party so that we can make this nation work again. We are not interested in opposition within the House.
And staying with the courts, President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dongba Mensem, has thrown out a petition filed by the Bayelsa governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Timipre Silva. Mr. Silva had written a petition requesting the President of the Appellate Court to disband and reconstitute the Bayelsa State Election Tribunal sitting in Abuja, alleging bias and unfair hearing against the chairman, Justice Adekunle Adeleye, and the 2 other panel members. The APC candidate, who is challenging the victory of Governor Doyediri of the PDP in the November 11, 2023 governorship poll, claims the tribunal did not give him enough time after calling 52 witnesses and closing his case last week. And as we head to business, Binance ends all its Naira services in Nigeria. The cryptocurrency exchange has ended its services, and the company released this on Tuesday. It set the timeline for the closure to be from 8th March 2024 and asked users to take needed action. In a statement, Binance urged users to withdraw Nigerian Naira and trade their NGN assets or convert Nigerian Naira into crypto prior to the discontinuation of these services. The statement reads further, from March the 8th, 2024, any remaining Nigerian balances in users' Binance accounts will be automatically converted to USD based on the conversion rate listed. The authorities have in recent times clamped down on cryptocurrency websites, accusing them of speculation and being partly responsible for the weakening of the Naira against the dollar. And outside our shores, former U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday marched closer towards a bitter rematch against President Joe Biden in November as his final Republican rival, Nikki Haley, threw in the towel after a thumping defeat in the Super Tuesday primaries, pointedly declining to endorse the man she has portrayed as chaotic and mentally incompetent. Former UN Ambassador Haley said Trump would have to earn the support of moderates who backed her long-shot campaign. Her withdrawal leaves America facing a battle for the White House between 2 elderly men that many voters say they don't want, with Trump brushing aside multiple criminal indictments and the scandal over his attempt to overthrow the 2020 election in his pursuit of a comeback. And in sports, ex-UFC champion Francis Ngannou has clashed with Tyson Fury and says he's just getting started in boxing. This comes ahead of his heavyweight fight with Anthony Joshua. Ngannou faces Joshua in Saudi Arabia on Friday, but opted to do his best at verbal sparring with former opponent Fury at Wednesday's news conference. Joshua took a backseat, however, as Fury reacted to Ngano's suggestion he had struggled in their October bout. And that does it on some of those big stories making headlines this morning. But what are you saying about some more of these and, of course, some other subject matter? Kadi joins me now for a review of those trends.
Oh, yes, I do, Bukola.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to the Joshua and Ngano fight tomorrow?
Well, I'm not a boxing fan, but Kadi, thank God that there's boxing. If not, all these men that have so much energies, would we be safe?
Would you see them at the motor park?
Well, you just take a detour.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting one tomorrow. And it's quite interesting. It's happening on International Women's Day. And I know a lot of women are fans of Anthony Joshua, but I digress, guys. Let's take a look at what's trending this morning. For good reason. Right. Well, let's take a look at what's trending, what's making round this morning. And I think Third Mainland Park closure has been a big one for a lot of people, particularly commuters in Lagos. We brought you the travel advisory yesterday about the park closure of the Third Mainland Bridge. It's expected to be open later today, but obviously it came with lots of inconveniences to people. A lot of people saying they spent hours in traffic. So there's a Lagos traffic, right? And then there's yesterday's traffic.
Add Third Mainland to it.
Big one. So we'll begin with this one from Fiyin Dada on X. It's important to curate all of these opinions so government also knows what you are saying. And this is from Fiyin Dada on X saying, I honestly don't know the thought process behind the individuals or behind the locking of Third Mainland Bridge, because tell me why I have spent over 4 hours on a trip that is usually 40 minutes. I know in that advisory that the ministry gave says it's meant to be in continuation of the work being done on Third Mainland Bridge, and it's a classic debate, really.
And you know, Kadi, it speaks to a form of population explosion, if you ask me, because there are alternative routes, and the situation was managed during the partial closure, but this time it's a full closure of the bridge, and this is what we have. So there's need for more infrastructural development, but funding has been a big challenge, with reports saying that we need hundreds of billions of naira to meet the infrastructural deficit in Nigeria, not just in Lagos now, but across board. Here's what Dude Adeolu is saying. Adeolu says, it begins with an explanation. There you have it. God, you thought closing Third Mainland Bridge was a good idea. This is considerably worse than last week, and I was in that also. I'm tired.
I know.
Get back your strength, Adeolu.
Yes. Let's take a look at this next one. It is from El Haj Afele. You have to be careful pronouncing those names. It's got to be quite tricky sometimes on X. It says over 2 hours from phase 1 to VI, all because of Third Mainland Bridge closure. And I know you also had perhaps that kind of experience as well, but it is what it is.
Well, Oludayo Shokumbi says Third Mainland Bridge blocked, Ikoyi blocked. Now, wow.
Sammy Splendor, the period of time the Third Mainland Bridge will be completely blocked just happened to fall into days I'm off duty. That's from Sammy Splendor. I don't know what Sammy Splendor is trying to achieve. Are you trying to make us feel bad that, you didn't have to go through that? But yeah, point taken. So you might want to pray for that grace. That's Sammy Splendor.
Next time. Well, this one is from Abdul Fatai, and he says, I believe, today's traffic, I believe, from VI to mainland is not normal, all because of Third Mainland Bridge. This traffic, na horror movie.
So there you go, some of the things you're saying on X. If you've got any thoughts, questions, hashtag CTV Morning Brief. That's how to do it on the show this morning. But let's move to another one, and that's the EFCC saying it intercepted 21 trucks said to be smuggling food out of the country. Remember, the customs had said 2 days ago that 120 trucks had been intercepted of late. So add to that the 21 by the EFCC, but naturally it has gotten a lot of Nigerians talking. Like EFCC, trucks, but all hands on deck, they say. But let's see what you're saying. So Joy44 and X has this to say that EFCC should kindly let the public know who the truck owners are. At this point, we have the right to understand the impact of some so-called business people's selfishness. So it's important to follow these through and not just, have a statement about it and then go to bed. No, we need to follow this through. Was this really an arrest? Did they deserve to be arrested? Is the story clear? The EFCC needs to follow up so people can have their doubts clear.
Speaking of following through, many questions, are apt at this time, particularly with the interception of a number of trucks. So we have to distinguish between smuggling and exportation. Yeah. Shouldn't we have an exportation capacity as a country to export food to neighboring countries? I'm speaking to our conversation with African farmer yesterday. So there should be a distinction such that, we don't stifle what we should be encouraging. But of course, it's instructive that Nigeria needs food at this time. So this is Dr. Oak, and what's he saying? Interception is good, but when are you going to list the owner's name out? Just share this food among Nigerians who are really suffering if you can't name anyone.
If we're going to be sharing the food, that's if this is, of course, what it is, then we need to find a better way to share. We don't want to see what happened some weeks ago at customs with people dying as a result of a stampede. Omobaba Carpenter, kind of like this name on X, is the next one, saying, we never see food chop. Some people, they carry and go. Nigeria will always amuse me. Well, we're still waiting to see the outcome of the investigation, but that's what Omobaba Carpenter has to say. That's shade
interesting name.
By the way.
And Sire Paul 01 says, people dragging EFCC for arresting smugglers is funny. Are you guys concerned about the arrest of illegal smugglers, or you are sad EFCC is doing the work expected of the customs and NIS? Y'all are funny people.
Okay, there you go. The beauty about social media is you can air your opinions as far as you're not harming any other person. So there you go with that one. One more for you, and that's from Bar Tunde, saying greed is what's killing Nigerians, and we blame everything on the government. And for those asking if it is the EFCC's job to do such operations, this action is economic sabotage, which also falls as one of their mandate. Bar Tunde says.
On to another theme now, Kadi, Edo politics, and quite a number of interesting thoughts here, starting with DEC. DEC says, Philip Shaibu, Edo State Deputy Governor, might have done wrong, but serving him impeachment notice at this time of election is ill-timed because PDP, this time, every Edolite is needed to deliver Aswe Igodalu, not divide.
Johnson Abolagba. Well, I think a lot of Edo people are jumping on this. I mean, some for, some against, as you will expect. But it says that the sooner he is impeached, the better. So he may leave us in peace. Okay. We know what side this is on. It also dawned on him that you don't get elected to the office of governor by arm twists and tactics. But it's important to say that he said he's not done anything wrong. And he believes that the governor is not supporting him because he didn't support the candidate of the governor. He says he has a right to vie for any elective position anyway. So, the situation
and the governor
goes
didn't deny that he has that right, but the circumstances turned out to be what it did. Unsurprisingly, as some may say.
Unsurprisingly. I just want to say that for young people, you need to pay attention to this process. You need to get involved. You always say that we make up a large chunk of the voting population. Let us make that count right now. From the political parties to the engagement, to the campaigns, and eventual election. Young people, yes, be on social media, but also be on the field as well. I think that's pretty much all we can take from the trends this morning, Bukola.
So we're moving on to interesting themes that affect you, particularly if you're an entrepreneur. How are you surviving amid this economic climate? We have some answers for you from some people who are staying afloat. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
I like that.
Welcome back. In just a few hours, it will be International Women's Day. And of course, you know, we try to cover all grounds on the show. And that's why we started talking to women, especially those in business. And we're being joined on the program by these incredible women who have been doing business in this very harsh economy. So we're trying to do a couple of things together. First, we'll get a feel of what it is to be a business person, a small or medium-sized business owner in this very economy. We've been joined in our Lagos studio by the CEO, Oludit, as well as she's also the CEO of Corporate. I hope I pronounced that well. Corporate. Yes, that's what I had to ask. Ms. Banke Adeniran, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Also joining us right here in the studio is a member of the Ogbonge Women Small Scale Women Farmers Association. This is Yemisi Zara Suleiman. Thank you for coming on the program.
It's a pleasure being here.
And in our Colonel studio, we're being joined by the founder of Wild Test Enterprise Inc. Also, she's the coordinator of SDGs, Ms. Amina Ibrahim. Ms. Ibrahim, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, fantastic. I want to welcome all of you together. Sometime when we throw this question, it's going to be a conversation. I don't want to look at it as an interview, so you can jump in at any point to just have your say on an issue. Because for us, you know, if you go to school, they do project and thesis and all of that. This is our primary source of data because you guys are the ones doing the business. So it's not secondary source. So whatever you tell us is what is going to resonate with a lot of people in your spaces. So let me start with you, Banke, on this particular one. How's it been doing business? And first, what kind of business do you do? And how's it been doing the business in this economy? Because we're taking, this is data for us.
I know. You're literally in the field right now doing Vox Populi. My name is Banke Adeniran, and I run a number of businesses, some that I founded, some that I'm privileged to oversee, including Oludidit, Corporate, Easy Print, Easy Logistics, Easy Mart, and it cuts across different sectors. So there's who I am, who has enabled me to run these businesses, and I can answer the question from how has he been running business as a human being, or how has he been running a business as a woman, and then how has he been running a business in this economy. There are different sides to it, but the important thing is staying afloat, finding different ways to reinvent, staying profitable, and just serving, really. That's how it has been. If you want me to give you a summary of how it's been, that's literally how it's been.
Because maybe let's come to you, the Ogbonge woman. That's why I choose to call you this morning. I'm sure you've had conversations, especially this period where we talk about and talk with farmers, and it's been a lot of issue. We're having a challenge, and sometimes we're worried about whether we're diagnosing the problem rightly as far as food security is concerned. So what's your perspective on what's going on? How are you guys managing this economy?
Okay, thanks for having me here. And I'm very happy that I have the opportunity to speak to the world. For farmers, since maybe the COVID, it has been very tough. Most of the farmers have lost everything. I'm an Ogbonge woman, a member of Small Scale Women Farmers Organization in Nigeria. We're all over the 36 states in Nigeria, including the FCT. In my cluster in Lagos, we are almost 400 farmers, women farmers, both crop, livestock farmers. So we are able to know what is going on in all sectors of the farming, both livestock and crop farming. It has not been funny for farmers. Since the COVID, most of the farmers lost everything due to the natural disasters. Like myself, I'm a pig farmer. I'm into poultry farming. Of course, you know, farmers, I'm in a cluster estate, the largest settlement in West Africa for piggery. I have my poultry farm, doing other little things along. But the COVID came and it, even the aquaculture, the crop farmers, the pig farmers, even the rabbit farmers, most of their products were eroded due to natural disaster, as in virus springing up for the pig farmers, for example, even the rabbit farmers. So it has not been funny for women farmers, okay? And look at the security issues too. Most of the farmers, especially the crop farmers, they need vigilante to escort them to plant, to harvest. Making even cost of running this business very expensive for them. okay? And sales, preservation, processing, roads, access to your farm. All these things are challenges for women especially. I was discussing with my lady while there, talking to her about, okay, staffing. The youths are not ready to come into farming. They are not even ready to work for farmers. Why? Because the farmers need to upgrade their volume of activities for you to be able to say, okay, I want to pay you, right? I want to pay you for your service. I need to do volume job to be able to entice the youth of today to come into the farming business.
All right, let's go to our Kano studio, Ms. Ibrahim. I don't know what the narrative is for you, because we're going to go into specifics. This is just something. We're going to go into specifics. What's the narrative for you? I'm positing it in this economy where inflation is at 29.9, let's call it 30, what it is. 35% food inflation and all of that. What is it for people, especially women in the north, as far as this economy is concerned?
Thank you very much for this question. I'll be speaking from the perspective of a small business owner and a woman in the north. I'm into the food and clothing business, and it hasn't been funny, like my sister said over there. We're trying to stay afloat, you're trying to make profits, and you still want to be in business because this is what keeps you going. This is what sustains you. So with this present economy, it hasn't been, cost of production has been very high. Your customers don't want to understand that your price of today is different from the price of tomorrow. So it has been very difficult for young women in the north. For myself personally, I run my business from home. The plan was to move out, to expand in 2024, get a place outside my home, but it has been very difficult with the task and the cost of rent and cost of production. So I just have to still remain in my comfort zone, just do the business from home and do it online, since I cannot expand and move out of my comfort zone. So it hasn't been easy in the present economy for small business owners in the North generally. And I believe I speak for every small business owner who is a lady, who is a woman in the North.
Yeah, Mrs. Ibrahim, I'll come back to you. And I have a specific question for you, Mrs. Sulaiman, as far as farming is concerned. But as Jeffrey said, let's begin to break it down into specifics now. You know, when it comes to the big manufacturing sector or MSMEs, there's always this conversation about multiple taxes. So I'd like you to speak to us, you know, one by one about multiple taxation. And, you know, what goes into production for you? Either you're buying petrol, you know, to keep the business running, if you're into machines and all of that. Starting with you, Banke.
Thank you. So it will be interesting to note that I'm currently new in the Lagos terrain. My business has been in Abuja for 10 years, and now we're venturing into Lagos. Quite a peculiar year to venture into a new terrain, actually, because there's a lot of uncertainty. But thankfully, we're staying afloat, like I mentioned earlier, and we're able to acquire, by privilege, a new property to be able to do business in. So getting to understand the multiple taxation system in Lagos is very new to me. I may not be able to comment on that accurately because business operation right now is kicking off in Lagos. But then as a small business owner or as a growing business owner, I like to say that I'm a growing business owner. It's medium, it's small, it's micro, it gets small, and then it's a growing business to a very large business. So there are obviously a number of issues. You have people just walking into your store or your space to demand of something that you may have already paid. You have people that are, and the inconsistency in the data available. So you may have remitted this, but then it's not showing on this platform. I mean, those are challenges that Nigerian business owners face generally, and it's peculiar to different industries, but then you can pretty much say that everybody is digging from the same well, and everybody is affected by the same kind of water that is coming out of it. I think it's just the Nigerian system, but we're a resilient people, so come what may, we always find ways to survive. We always find ways to come out on top. And even though things right now are different than we're used to, I mean, would you imagine that March 2024 is the month that dollar exchange rate will be hitting 1,800, 1,700, and I wonder what really is going on. And it doesn't even affect only a specific number of people. It affects everything, because even though you're not importing, you're probably going to buy something that is a direct effect of importation, and you have to cough out more money from your pocket to do what you need to do. But then it's finding out ways to reinvent, finding out ways to consistently stay afloat, because we're a resilient people in Nigeria. And regardless of whether we are suffering from multiple taxation or inflated prices, or just that unpredictability of, because my business is in retail sector, it cuts across different industries. There's the FCMG for Easy Mart, there's the creative industry where we manufacture gift and stationery products, but we directly do retail. But so when you start a new week with a certain price, hoping that by the time you're due for a restock, you can restock at that price, but a little further down the line, something has changed, and you have to quickly adapt. Although prices are not that sticky when it comes to adjustments in that way. You can't just wake up one morning and then say, "Oh, I'm changing the prices." It used to be that way, but now you have to, because you have to consider, oh, in a week, I'm due for a restock. So if at this current sales price that we bought the items from the market, we would not be able to maintain this same amount if we're going to order a fresh restock from the market, especially when it comes to the FCMG. You have to adapt quickly. Right. So what we will try to do at different times is to not even put prices of products out, because you put a price, someone holds you to it, and then you have to explain that, oh, sorry, it has changed, though.
So
it's just the flexibility.
Kind of business now.
No, we have a supermarket at Easy Mart, so you have to walk in. But you'd expect that a supermarket, you see prices displayed on the shelves. Yeah. And for the gift and stationery business, that's Olu did it. You expect that you'd also see prices, and then there's obviously the online sales point. So you'd expect the prices to be transparently displayed. But that's going to put you in trouble, because you may not be able to afford to get something else done at that other price. So there's a lot of flexibility and unpredictability. That's is needed. It's a lot to take in.
I imagine you want to come in.
Yeah.
This one.
Yes, for farmers, it's even worse, okay? Because for farmers, for example, talking about inputs, talking about your seedlings, talking about trying to buy inputs for your livestock. By the time you get to the store and you're like, okay, I bought SBM soya beans meal, so amount yesterday, and today I want to buy is at higher price. Okay, and what do? Your livestock must eat. So you either reduce what you are purchasing, the quantity you are doing at that time. And when you talk about livestock feeding, it's not about I'm not going to feed today or because there's no money. So the challenge is so massive that we really need, in fact, sometimes I just wonder what the federal government is doing regarding the Malabo agreement of 10% budget for farmers. Because we need access to all these benefits for us to even stay afloat. Nigerians are resilient, yes, but it's tough at this time, even diesel. I have a feed mill, for example. I cannot start my generator for about a year now.
What?
I cannot use it. And there's no electricity, of course.
So what alternatives have you resorted to? So
the business has gone down.
That's that section of your business.
Yes, because you need to wait for when the light comes on to be able to even do as little as trying to crush for the farmers. That's what I do there. You crush for the farmers, you produce feed. You cannot even produce feed when the input is so much. So we need to talk to our government at this point. The women are not, our attentions are not being given to the women. Even the girl education, women education. Now we're saying invest in women. Acceleration for progress. Where is the investment? Where is the support from the federal government? Lagos State, for example, has been doing very greatly, very excellently for women. In fact, most of the commissioner, the PS, they know some of us by face because they interact with us. They come to us. They ask us questions. You understand? They project for us yearly. But we're so many. I just told you my cluster, only in Lagos, we're about 400 women doing one business or the other. So we're looking up to the federal government executing this Malabo, agreement for women for 10% inclusion of our budget. So that it will get to us, we'll be able to okay, we are comfortable doing business. So we are resilient, but we cannot even, like myself, I can only take my vehicle to the farm occasionally when I have to carry loads, because fueling it and looking at what I will get when I get to the farm is not equating.
Very quickly, what about taxes in your locality and how you transport your farm produce to the market?
Okay, that was why I mentioned about processing. It's a challenge for farmers because some of us, we do perishable goods. We need to be able to translate it into a finished product for your supermarkets, right? Do get. So the roads are terrible, the roads are bad. Okay, then processing facilities for women, especially, it's the women that are more it. Even now, the men are at home. Some of the men are at home because some of their businesses are, running down. So we need to feel our minister. We need to be able to even say, our minister is talking to us. Our minister is asking, because when you are talking about inclusion for women, making policies.
Right.
You do get.
And I just need to break this down further. I know we've had that conversation time and again, how we always look to federal alone, but we forget that there are different layers. So I'm curious to know what your local government has been doing, if you have some sort of interface, if the local government is even present in any way for your business, the state government as well, and before we talk about the federal government, we know the federal wields the most power. But let me go to Amina Ibrahim, who, by the way, I should say joins us virtually from Kaduna. I mean, you were shaking your head. I saw you. You were really into this, agreeing with what they were saying. And I'd like to hear your story. The president was in Qatar telling investors, prospective investors, that, you know what, if you have any issues, revert to us. We'll sort you out. And I know a lot of business owners in Nigeria are like, we need to revert to you, President. So we have issues that we have on our minds. And that's why we're having this conversation. So if a president were watching right now and you want to revert to him, what would you be reverting to? The president, the governors, the local government chairman, all of the people in government?
Okay, I was actually nodding my head because I could relate to the farmer when she was speaking, because like I said, I deal with the food industry. So from the farmers down to us, it's been, and she mentioned fuel, diesel fuel. For me, I need to store my produce, I need to store my raw materials before I translate it into edible food for you and I, for my customers. So it's been very difficult. And like I mentioned earlier, I do my business from home, so I need delivery service. And delivery is, in fact, sometimes the delivery cost is more than what you're buying. So you just feel, what is the need? So you mentioned multiple taxation. Yes, before I got into this business, I spoke to already established businesses. And the task, in fact, that was what even discouraged me from moving out of my house, because there's multiple taxations. They come today for this, they come tomorrow, and you're so confused. You don't know where the money is going and who is even tasking you. And for the intervention, I believe over 60% of business owners are women, because we are really into business now. There's been this wide, how do I put this? Of women going into business, because we are now coming out. We now want to be able to support our family. We now want to be able to support our community. So I would say the government should, you mentioned the local government, the state government first before the federal government. The government can create inclusion programs. We can push these women into tech, because now tech has come to stay. So how they can use technology to enhance their businesses, their different businesses, how to advertise, how to sell their produce online without a walk-in store. For women who don't have a walk-in store, you have to sell online. So I believe they can also give out grants for small business owners, just to boost their productivity and to assist the business. I would just like to say this. There's something the government normally do when they want to do intervention. They just push things out without evaluating, without asking. So I believe if the government can talk to women, like, what are you currently doing? What do you need? They don't ask us what we need. They just say, we've empowered 5,000 women were empowered, and you don't see the empowerment anywhere. I think these empowerment programs are not reaching the people who really need them. You should talk to us. We are the people who need these interventions. Talk to us. Let us tell you what we need. Then you give us what we need. From there, I believe we can tackle this issue of
Let me come to Banker quickly on this one. The IMF. I know when these things make the news, a lot of people just look away because they're like, I don't interface with the IMF. So when World Bank, IMF, give all of that, a lot of people don't pay attention. But of late, IMF has been saying the federal government needs to take off, the cap on petrol. That's remove subsidy on electricity as well. And so if we don't do that, we're going to lose about 7 trillion of our GDP. And that's a huge chunk, 3% or thereabout. And I don't know if, as a business person, how that hits you. Because on the one hand, we're going to lose from those projections, we're going to lose 3% GDP. On the other hand, people are saying, we're going through tough times. How dare you even consider something like this? The MSMEs, you employ about 80% or even more of people, basically. I hope I got that figure correctly. So when you hear that, what comes to mind? Yes, employing over 80%. When you hear what the IMF is saying, those recommendations, are you good with it? Or you're thinking, no way?
My background in economics, my first degree was in economics, helps me to understand what you just said, way more than just surface level. But what the average Nigerian is concerned about is, okay, whatever policy you want to put in place, what does it mean on the market? What does it mean in the market? What does it mean on the street? Right now, we're battling. I don't like to comment a lot on the Nigerian economy because it gets into a point where, like I said, I have a background in economics. I'm able to understand a lot of things more than just surface level and what is being reported. So when I really get into it and understand what is going on, there's a lot of uncertainty. Like, okay, so this is going on, but I don't see that this is a counter policy to take care and to cater to the effect of this. So when the subsidy off of petroleum was taking off, and we woke up into it, and so on the market you have routes, because now I'm an employer. I'm grateful to be able to employ a number of people in business, and the initial month was serious because we had people who from home to work would maybe spend 1,000 naira, and suddenly on the same routes they're spending about 2,500 naira. And you want to be a kind employer and create a form of cushion for the people that are coming to work, because you don't want people coming to work every day and then the next day they're not able to afford to come to work. So in the first month we did we did a flat rate increment in salary. We just passed the information that this is just to soften the blow of this. We'd eventually figure out how this is going to be, but just take this for now. We did that across the entire staff strength. And by the second month, we realized, actually in the middle of the first month, we realized that the magnanimous thing that we did was not immediately sustainable, because you have to check out how it reflects on the bottom line. So are we making enough profit to offset this increase in salary? And if we do, can we consistently do that? Because it's one thing to tease someone with bread when the person is hungry. It's another thing to be able to give the person bread again tomorrow when the person is hungry, because hunger doesn't, you can't quench hunger forever. You have to keep feeding. You have to keep feeding. So when we realize that, okay, this is not sustainable, we have to now find ways to make sure that the bottom line is increased. But then you're selling to a population that is enduring or suffering from the same kind of issues. So you have people now because I run different businesses, I can give you different examples across different sectors. So for the creative industry, where my gift and stationery manufacturing business is situated, gifting is not a need, it's a want. I mean, if it wasn't clear enough during the COVID year, when only essential staff were given access to move around town, I mean, I'm sure that was like a jump into reality for most of us, because the rest of us who were not running essential businesses were at home, fully locked down in April 2020, the month that there was full lockdown. So when you realize that something is not in need, it's not food. If you don't buy a gift for someone today, you most likely will be fine. You'll sleep fine. You'll wake up fine tomorrow morning. It's rise and early. It's a beautiful day. It may be a hot day considering the climate right now. But then what I'm trying to say is that life continues. So but then because it's a want and it's a nice to have, if it's your birthday and you get something nice, if you feel good, you feel remembered, you feel valued. But there's a percentage of the average spender's salary that is that is kept aside for frivolities. I mean, after the major things like housing, your transportation, your feeding, and then you can now see, okay, what percentage is left to be able to service my frivolities? Okay, so maybe you like to take a holiday, maybe you like to buy a nice gift for someone, but you find out that the average customer's disposable income is shrinking. Not because they feel like it, but because other things are taken, and even if they have a car, so maybe they're not taking public transport, even if they have a car, you go to a filling station, and where you could buy fuel at a certain price before the time, it's suddenly times X, where X is dependent on the fluctuation in the economy. So you have to find out that, oh, okay, so how do we make sure that we continue to take more money from people to sustain this business that we're running, and also nurture the people that are working to make sure the business is alive, because without the staff, you really can't have a business altogether. So when there's one more new policy, I'm talking about affecting the bottom line, affecting the disposable income of people, how much more money people are able to spend or keep in their pocket, then you have to make sure that that's sitting on a base that can handle it.
Okay. So, because there's a lot you're saying, and all of you are saying, and that's why I say you're our primary source of data today. So we deliberately allow you to talk so that the people of the authority can hear. So that in case they said they sent 100 million to Lagos, these are the people that should receive the money. They're not seeing it from the federal level.
That's what I wanted to
just before you call me, because Kayode had mentioned something.
Right.
The obsession about GDP in economics is the fact that it's expected to, when they say it's high, it means productivity is high. And now taking out these things, because our fundamentals are faulty, which is why the economics here defies economic logic, basically. So which is why we're asking you the question. Because the IMF is saying remove this, remove that, because productivity is supposed to come up. But now you are the practitioners, you are the professionals in this space. Productivity is actually going down, if I'm correct. Now, so what advisory or what advice you have to give to the federal government or the state government to say, okay, you remove this subsidy and you may be removing more, but you're killing us. We may get FPIs, which may run out in 6 months if the economy tanks, but we're the ones that will stay in this economy no matter what happens. What should be the direction of government right now? Let's talk solutions.
Okay, sir. Seriously, you know, you were like, if I'm to speak to the president, we've come as farmers, we've come to understand, because we followed news, we followed trends, we've come to understand that, well, the subsidy has to be removed, but we look up to where our leaders will talk to us, where our leaders will explain to us what's their plan. We listen to us, just as my sister over there just said, listen to us. And you see, when you are talking about intervention, we expect where the government will come to the cluster. We've come to cluster ourselves as women. We've come to bring ourselves together. Do you understand? So when you are saying there's a federal intervention, who is it directed to? Which clusters? So me, I'm looking up to where the government will be able to reach out to women cluster groups directly. Okay? Like now we are talking about women-friendly machineries for production. We have agreed, okay, subsidy is being removed, the time is being tough, encourage us to work. We have the ability to work. Some of us have our structures already in place. Some of us have lost, just as I said, we've lost our working capital. We've lost even our investments. So what is the government now doing to relate to us one-on-one at that point? Not we have 5,000 women have been empowered. Women have been offered 500,000. Each woman farmer should assess 500,000, which we have not even seen.
Let me quickly follow up on that. You know, at the onset of the administration, during the announcement of distribution of palliatives, government also incorporated distribution of fertilizers in that program. You talk about your cluster being in different states of the federation. Did any of your cluster in any of those states get those fertilizer that government announced was going to be distributed?
Well, not to my knowledge, because when you said we're empowering these people, it should be impactful. Okay, it should be impactful to the farmers. If we are 100 people sitting Unless 50 people assess these things, you know, there's no how when you give to a farmer, it affects them like that.
So Obonge farmers didn't get any of the palliatives?
They get some, mostly from the Lagos state government. Federal presence is not felt in our group at all.
So,
Amina, would you like to contribute to that? Perhaps you could share experience from the Kano perspective.
I said it all because, as you can see, I was just agreeing with her. When you mention intervention, get it to the right people. They just come in, you just hear figures and numbers, but you never, we are the business people. I don't mind not getting, but at least let's hear from our mates. Let's hear people say, I got this from the government, I got this from the government. Like she said, none that she knows of. If at least you give 60%, you will feel the impact that 60% of these people got this intervention. And also the government can also come up with policies. Yes, you've removed subsidy from petroleum products. Subsidize other things, subsidize machinery, subsidize fertilizers, subsidize other things so that it will cushion the effects of the removal of the subsidy from petroleum products. So yes, I agree with her that the intervention should be sent to the right people. Speak to us. Come down to our level. Let us tell you what we want. Let us show you the way. Let's give you the map of where to take those interventions to.
You know, the AFDB president yesterday, Dr. Akume Adesina, was talking about how Africa is a solution for Africa, or Africa is Africa's solution. Yeah. I'm not sure how a lot of people are leaving that out, particularly because a lot of people are leaving, right?
Nice play of words.
Exactly. So I'm just curious how, particularly for you people, what you believe you are the solution for Africa. Your business is a solution. And I don't know how many opportunities you've had to jackpot in that sense. Maybe you can share with us. But if we're going to latch onto that, because we always encourage ourselves, we're resilient people who will solve our own problems, so we can do this, Nigeria forever, and all of that. But we need to really achieve that. So speak to us about how you can become Africa's solution. Are you now trying to innovate as a business? I don't know if you can do online. You can't plant online, can you? Because we're talking online. But what are you can do soil. So what are the innovations you're introducing so that we can also encourage businesses out there? You're still trying to stay afloat in spite of all of the challenges. So maybe some businesses can learn from you how you're innovating and becoming that solution. I know there's strength in power. We always believe in our women. That's why we're doing this. So speak to us about some of the innovations you're hoping to champion to ensure that we solve our problems.
I like what you said about you're living in Africa, but people are leaving or something like that. It was nice for your words. Let me mention something about the question you asked earlier, well, the previous thought that we're threading about the government policy. So there's policy that is good on paper, and there's policy that is also good physically in reality. Now, if I was going to fit something, say maybe your iPad on the point of the iPad is to carry. The destination is maybe that door. I need to take this from here to that door, but I need to carry it. If you told me, oh, put it in your jacket because you have a pocket, it's good, it's a solution, but you have to consider, oh, is the size of my pocket big enough to fit the size of that iPad so I could transport it from point A to point B? So when you see a policy that is good on paper, it could be synonymous with, okay, just put that in your pocket because you imagine that I have a pocket that can pick it up. But when you consider that, okay, that size of iPad is too big for my pocket, you want to consider other means of transporting that same iPad from point A to point B. So when you have a policy that is good on paper, you want to consider that the economy is able to receive it. There's no way that you can cause a newborn baby to run. I mean, children should at some point be able to crawl and be able to run. But if you're tasking a baby with, okay, run from here to, the baby will not be able to run. It's a good thing, it's a good point that you're trying to make. But the baby is just not able to handle that. So when we have policies that are not fitting to the current situation on ground, you want to reconsider, okay, so what needs to move so that this can sit? Okay, so what do we need to adjust? What do we need to widen so that this can sit? And to also answer your question about Africa being the solution to the African problems. I don't disagree with that. Everybody is taxed. I don't operate with an African mentality. I don't operate with a Nigerian mentality. I know that I'm in this system, but not necessarily of the system. And everybody, when God made you, there's no, okay, I'm only sending you to Africa, and your solution is only, you can only be in Africa. So everybody should operate with the mindset that you're called to solve a global problem or to serve the world. So if you're here operating in Africa, one of the ways that we can begin to consider really exporting what it is that we have on our insides, what to be able to earn and be able to, be alive and be a solution, like we're saying, is to position, okay, so what is it that you're doing right now? How is it that what you're doing can affect beneficially other people in the world? So,
yeah, just land on your thoughts. Okay. No, we're totally out of time. You can land on your thought quickly, just in 10 seconds.
Okay, so it's a global world. There's technology, there's the online business. There are different ways to reach out. So it's looking at what you're doing and seeing how other people can benefit, opening it up in that way. So you don't need to jackpot eventually. If you have to, fantastic. But you can be here and then serve the world.
Madam.
Okay, for the farmers.
30 seconds.
Okay, for the women farmers. Yes, like I said, we form ourselves into clusters. Yeah. We form ourselves into thrifts and loans.
Beautiful.
I look up to where the government will do a single digit, like a grant for these cluster groups. I look up to that, whereby the federal government will like, okay, this grant is going to Ogbonge women, small-scale women farmers in Lagos State or all over Nigeria, because we already organized group and we have a structure in place, but the enablement is not enough.
Amina, let's come to you quickly, 30 seconds if you can.
Okay, I would just say, coming from an online vendor, I would say embrace technology. You don't have to own a working store. Embrace technology. Technology is here to stay. Just do your business online and...
All right, well, thank you so much, ladies. We can continue this for another 2 hours. One of the questions we wanted to ask, but we don't have time, was how this affects the quality of product at the end of the day, because it's a survival game. So I don't know how you're surviving with this, because some people will say, I reduce my quality so that I can survive. But we don't have time for all of that for now. Maybe some other time. It's International Women's Day tomorrow, so we celebrate all of you. Amina Ibrahim, founder, Wild Taste Enterprise, joining us from Kano Vazum. Thank you so much for coming. Banky Adeniro, CEO, Oludits, CEO. Olu did it.
Thank you.
Olu did it. And so many other things she does. The list is long. As well as Yemisi Zara Suleiman, member of the Ogbonge Women, Small-Scale Women Farmers Association. All of you, thank you so much, ladies, for coming on the program. And we wish you the very best. Please keep that resilience and don't give up.
Thank you. Don't forget, Jeffrey, happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day.
Okay.
So you had to do that, right? In fact, let's go.
Left out.
We'll have our day, maybe in 20 years.
We'll go on this quick break. When we come back, we'll switch gears. That's executive order by the president. What does it mean for the oil and gas industry? Join us again.
For Facebook, because people are saying they reach out to them. All I say, comrade for government. I don't know anybody. I invited that guy. I invited that guy to my wedding. You know, and the governor was,
Well, Nigeria being basically a mono economy, the oil sector is pivotal to the survival of other ramifications of national life. And little wonder that following the removal of fuel subsidy, so many other things have been affected, from the manufacturing sector to MSMEs, which we just wrapped up a discussion on, and of course with the attendant effect on inflation. So what does the executive order that the president signed yesterday, what implications will it have overall on the oil sector? To have that conversation, we have joining us the chairman, New Energies and Hydrogen Study Group of NGA, Mr. Olabode Shomi. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Shomi, welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. It appears that we have difficulty hearing Mr. Shomi. Mr. Shomi, welcome once again to the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I think I can hear you loud and clear.
Brilliant. What a relief. Okay, you're looking good, by the way. So tell us, Mr. Shomi, what does this new executive order, what does it mean for the oil sector? In layman's language, please break it down for us.
Okay, in simple terms, an executive order is actually a policy initiative by government. Lest we forget, the president is also the Minister of Petroleum, which includes, in this case, both gas, natural gas, as well as petroleum. So basically, it's a policy because it does not have the strength of a law. So it's subservient to it. But irrespective of whichever one it is, we need to understand why we have policies, why we have laws, why we have regulations. Laws as enshrined as a product of the National Assembly have a stronger force. But there are limitations to what the law can do, and especially when we want to get things right. But for policies, what they help to do is to provide clarity. Policies help to provide consistency. They also help to provide accountability. So where the laws are not able to be effective or practical, policies can come in to ensure that the right things are done. So in simple terms, in generic terms, that's what policies are meant to achieve.
But there are three legs of it. Introduction of fiscal incentives for non-associated gas, midstream, and deep water developments. Let's start with that one, that specific area. How will it impact the many legs of gas, either its production or exportation? You know, we heard just weeks back that the federal government was going to stop exportation of gas in order to reduce the prices. So how would it aid the improvement of that sector? Okay, so natural gas has three phases to it, which everybody probably knows. The upstream, midstream, and of course downstream. When we talk about how gas affects the average Nigerian, they're just talking downstream, which is actually a minor part of the downstream, by the way. But the truth be told is that we have also heard that we are one of the biggest we have some of the biggest gas reserves in the world. The challenge for us is not so much as in the exportation or non-exportation of gas, but the ability to be able to have sufficient gas for usage. So a simple comparison will be like having a lot of river water or even the ocean and not having water to drink, which means, of course, it shows that you have to process water for it to be drinkable. So what has happened is that the nature of our own systems, the nature of, or should I say, the culture inherent in the political system has been such that it has not helped development. And I believe that this was one of the things that came up during the recent visit to Qatar, with some of the investors, some of the players within that nation complaining about imperfections or discrepancies in the Nigerian system. To my mind, and from what we have heard, that those are some of the things behind the foundation, serving as a foundation behind the release of these policies. So, back to your question, what we are expecting is that there will be greater clarity, there will be greater process control, and there will be significant accountability within the stakeholders as well as within the regulators to ensure that when there is an interest, either by an investor or by an operator in the offshore activities,
we'll be able to get from point A to point B in a clear, consistent, and productive manner.
So is the proposal by the president, which is the executive arm, not in contrast to what we saw on the floor of the National Assembly? Now we're talking about incentives. And I remember, I think when the FIRS boss visited or was at that particular hearing in the Senate or so, House of Reps, I can't remember which. And they're talking about some of these waivers and incentives in almost 10 trillion, about 6 or 7 trillion that has been given to some of these companies, not necessarily oil and gas this time. And this should have trickled into the economy. So they were literally saying, look, we need to slow down on some of these things. So we're looking for money. We can't keep throwing away money. So help us make sense of the president's position and that of the National Assembly when it comes to incentive and cry over too much incentive.
Okay, so first of all, I'm not a lawyer, but I haven't dealt with National Assembly and I still work with them. I understand that any policy is subservient to the law. Any regulation is subservient to the law. In simple terms, if a policy exists that stands contrary to the law, it becomes null and void to the extent that it's against the law. But in this case, this is not about law because, first of all, nobody can enshrine into law an incentive. I mean, say, for example, there's an incentive for cement manufacturers now, and they are to get a certain amount of, say, 500 naira per ton or whatever. If that becomes a law, if there's inflation, if the circumstances change, if there's a force majeure, and the realities of such incentives become null and void, you have to go through the process of lawmaking to correct that. So there are certain things when it comes to the practical aspect of running an industry or running a business that just cannot be in law. They have to be as a matter of policy. And that is where this stands. Once it gets to the issue of policy, it goes beyond the National Assembly, it goes into the executive arm. Now, in the particular case that you have mentioned, where there were financial incentives and all that, that is, we're talking about the export, that is not directly relevant to the issue at hand. The issue at hand is not talking about financial incentives for anyone, but it is talking about process control, process incentives. In other words, they are trying to make the circumstances, the process, the situation for which an investor will come in and have a proper business to be clearer, and he will be more encouraged. Let us not forget that money is not the only incentive, the only need that gets entrepreneurs into business. People also want to be able to see their process from beginning to the end so that they can plan and so that their business plan can be workable. And I believe that is the intent of the executive order. Whether it becomes a reality is a different ballgame.
Well, so, I mean, it's good. Executive order, it always has a bite to it. Everybody says there's an executive order, and everybody says you have to respect it because it's the president's order. Well, there might be some tricky turns along the way, but speak to us how this will affect the price of gas. Because at this rate, it looks like the price of gas per kg is chasing the dollar to naira rates, 1,200, 1.5 in some places, as though there's some competition. So for the everyday Nigerian, they see executive order, they see oil and gas, they naturally think, will this affect the price of gas? So you might want to bust our bubble or give us something to look forward to.
Well, I mean, I believe we all buy gas. At least I know my wife collects something from me for gas. So, but in a more realistic fashion, there is a domestic gas policy in Nigeria which has been in existence for a while. And part of it states that a certain percentage, I don't know what it is now, but for everybody that exports, everybody involved in upstream activity that is producing gas must have a certain percentage of it available for local consumption. And the gas available for local consumption is directed into 4 basic areas. Gas to power, which is the gas that they use for the power sector, which consumes close to 75% of that amount. There's gas-based industries. Those are industries that use gas as raw material. So you're talking about methanol production, fertilizer, steel, and the related. Then you're also talking about industries that use gas within their boilers and their machines. Those are the priority areas for Nigerians. Once there is greater amount of gas being produced for export, automatically there is greater amount of gas available for domestic consumption. Once there is greater amount of gas available for domestic consumption, automatically there will be greater gas for use at home. That is the nature of the process. So what is incumbent upon all of us, even upon the media, even upon the civil society and the average Nigerian, is to ensure that that process takes place. So there's a policy in place which is similar to this executive order, that an amount of gas is available for local consumption. So somebody needs to ask questions. How much gas was available or was distilled within the local the local framework within the last month, within 2 months, within the last 6 months? I mean, those are the practical things that will affect us, because laws don't affect themselves. Policies, regulations don't affect themselves. It is all human beings. And these human beings form a culture because there's a process within they operate. It is when we shed more light, when there's greater transparency, when the light shines upon darkness, that the process can become effective. So this is not a case of busting a bubble, but this is a case for us understanding the reality of our circumstances and ensuring that we as citizens also live up to our responsibility to hold those who are stakeholders in the process of ensuring that these policies come to pass to the responsibilities that they have. So basically, we need to ask questions about how much gas comes in monthly for the domestic market, how it is being distributed, how it is being distilled. And I'm sure if we do that frequently, people will be more careful about arbitrary increases in price.
Well, one of the things I try to, talk about when we have to deal with some of the structures we have as a people, as a country, as a system, is the people driving the process itself. And I'm happy you said, hopefully it's implemented. So who are the stakeholders that the president should be talking to? We know the president is the Minister of Petroleum, and he has 2 other ministers supporting him both in petroleum and in gas. But whatever policy, executive order, a direct order, a legislation, is still going to be driven by the same people within that space where it did not work before. I'm sure you get my drift. So what exactly will be done differently to ensure that things are really different, not just on paper?
Okay, so we operate a democratic form of government. The world has tried communism. We have tried monarchy. We have even tried theocracy, and they found out over the centuries that democracy is still the best form of government. The point is that when a person or a group of persons or an institution is a part of an industry functioning, that person, group of persons or institutions become a stakeholder. So, in simple terms, the man on the street is a stakeholder. The civil society, who have rights to intervene in non-governmental ways, are a stakeholder. The media, who have right to bring to light what is happening so that others can form an opinion, they are a stakeholder. The regulator is a stakeholder. The operator, those who are operating, whether downstream, even the person providing janitorial services for the industry, is a stakeholder. The Ministry of Petroleum is a stakeholder. Of course, the executive is a stakeholder. The judiciary is a stakeholder. So the idea behind the fact that there is this group of people responsible for achieving this, and the rest of us should hold those people accountable, is right within certain limits. But it is only right when every other person does their job. One of the things I have said is that there is a need for regular, perhaps monthly, investigative overview of how much gas is made available to the domestic market. The media has a right to do that. And if they don't do that, unfortunately, nobody else can. It is not the man on the street who is going to be asking the Ministry of Petroleum or the regulator or anybody about these questions. And it is important that people get a sense of relief or a sense of caution in reality as to what is happening by just knowing the basic facts. It is when these facts are absent from the public glare for a long time that we start to hear very sudden stories and sudden postulations that confuses people into the reality of the ground. So, like you have said, things may not have functioned well in the past. It is not because the people who are there cannot make it function. It is primarily because accountability and the process for accountability has been dysfunctional. And to put it in perspective, there are a lot of Nigerians that we see, they try to break laws, they try to be above the law. Even in the airport, sometimes they don't even want to queue. But once they get to Heathrow or they get to Frankfurt, the same people who a few hours ago were trying to break every law, you see them being obedient because they get to an environment where there are consequences for their actions. So what really causes the misbehavior of a lot of the people that we see as institutional leaders is lack of consequences for behavior. And one of the reasons for lack of consequences for behavior is the fact that their misdemeanors are not brought into light. So if we are to make the system work, all of us must be at play. Remember, I said it's a system. A system is not one person. It is a group of persons. It is a group of institutions. Just like you talk about reproductive system or digestive system, it's not just the mouth, it's not just the stomach. It is combination of so many things that make a system. So all hands must be on deck to ensure that the diverse parts of the system do their job.
Well, Mr. Chowumi, just to be clear, pardon me, Bukola, we do our jobs. We do the reporting. I mean, I just told you how much a kilogram of gas is now, literally combating with the dollar to naira. But we don't do the enforcement. In those climes, there is enforcement, proper enforcement, and I'm talking from government and the law enforcement agencies. There's nothing different really. The media is here and there, we do the reporting, but they go there and do things differently because the laws are really upheld and enforced. So I think it's again important to say that we need to enforce those laws here and ensure that everybody is above board.
Well, Kade, you captured my sentiments exactly, because I was going to say that, you know, those who are supposed to be the drivers of this executive order, I assume maybe those who work in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. For instance, one part of the executive order says contracting should now take 6 months. So, and it's also encouraging local content. So we should be, I imagine, Mr. Shomi, looking at the Ministry of Petroleum Resources for the efficient working of this executive order. In 30 seconds.
Yes, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, but not they alone. You also be looking at the regulators. So there are two regulators, the Upstream Commission and the Midstream and Downstream Authority. Those are very important factors. Then for some kind of balance, there are certain institutional, non-governmental actors you want to look at. You want to look at IPPG. You want to look at the Nigerian Gas Association. You want to look at some of all these people who will be able to tell you some truths, but in hushed tones and definitely not in public. So in reality, it's when you get a view from one person, it is an opinion. But when you get views from different sources and you are able to analyze to pick out what is consistent across different sources, then it is a research. So it's incumbent upon all of us to be able to get source out and echo the facts from all of this.
And the media will be doing its part of distilling opinion from fact by following up on all those agencies and the Ministry of Petroleum, as you've mentioned. We're totally out of time. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Olabode Shomi, who is the chairman, New Energies and Hydrogen Development Study Group of NGA. Thank you very much for your time on the Morning Brief.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
You know, all I wanted was simple transparency. Let's have a dashboard where we see these numbers. Let's start from there, as basic as that.
Yeah. We'll be following up on the data. We'll switch gears after this time now to look at Edo politics. What's the implication of the impeachment notice served on the deputy governor? We'll have answers after this break. Stay with us.
Let's talk Edo politics now. Yeah, we say a lot of things about Edo politics, but you know, every state has its own peculiarity. So Reverend Olu Martins joins us now to speak to what exactly is playing out in Edo State, the impeachment notice, or the impeachment proceedings, actually, which have begun with the governor, or deputy governor, I should say, of the state, Philip Shaibu. Reverend Olu Martins is the executive director, Canvassers for Democracy and the Rule of Law, joins us from Benin City via Zoom. Good morning, Reverend Martins. Good to have you on the morning brief.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
You know, for those who
the morning brief, I've never been on this one.
Oh yeah, welcome to the brief. We usually do like a welcome party, you know, for those who join us for the first time. But
that'd be nice.
You know, for those who are following Edo politics, it may be exhausting, really. It's been a very long ride. The governor, the deputy governor, and then we saw the primaries. I mean, different candidates emerging from primaries, and people were like, can't we just have things go, you know, straightforward when it comes to politics generally in Nigeria? We know Edo State is always peculiar. And then with this impeachment proceedings, which have begun against the deputy governor, a lot of people thought, well, how many months to go, really? Why now? Can't you just allow the man end his tenure and everybody go their way, contest for the election? So is this politics just doing its thing or governance? We need to really differentiate, because people want politics, good politics that will lead to good governance, not dirty politics that will naturally lead to poor governance.
Well, you know, it depends on what you mean by dirty politics. Politics everywhere in the world is a game of contention. And when there is contention for power, emotions are bound to rise. So everywhere in the world, politics is not a stroll in the park. Everybody is doing whatever they can do to get an advantage as far as the control of public patrimony is concerned. I don't think that Edo is any different. This is the last lap of this administration. And to talk about timing, I'm not too sure that the Constitution depicts a time where a governor or a deputy governor can be impeached. The case in question is Senator Akerele Bokno in Lagos. She was impeached, I think just about wasn't too far from this same time at the end of the first tenure of the now president of Nigeria, and then Femi Pedro ran the remaining tenure of Akerele Bokno. So I don't see, impeachment is not evil. Why people making it sound like it's a death sentence? Governors have been impeached, deputy governors have been impeached. So far in the history of Nigeria, 16 deputy governors have been impeached. And the House of Assembly, a different arm of government, thinking that they have had enough, all of this face-off between the governor and the deputy, just felt that, maybe the deputy governor is being a little bit too rascally in this approach to face-off. Maybe the dirty politics is on his side, and they felt that, maybe we should just put this matter, to rest. Deputy governor, an impeachment notice has been served. All the things on impeachment notice so far are allegations. They are yet to be substantiated. The man will have the right of reply. He will have the right, to defend himself. And the process is not as easy as we think. It's not like when we impeach a speaker, where you just move a motion of impeachment, and on the floor of Parliament that day, the speaker impeached. There's a long process, to it. So it may get to his terminus aqua. It may not get to his terminus aqua. But the process has, begun, and then we'll see how it plays out in the next few days, in the next few weeks. The deputy governor may just defend himself, and then he just, it may just turn out that, well, there wasn't really substance to the allegations. But as it stands now, it's an impeachment process that has started. All that is on it are allegations, and he has the right to prove or to defend himself as far as the allegations are concerned. But I don't want to create, I don't want to create the impression that impeachment notice is, if it's in the constitution of Nigeria, governors have been impeached, deputy governors have been impeached. So there really is no big deal, about serving the deputy governor, an impeachment notice.
Well, Reverend Martins, though you say that impeachment is not a new thing, and you've cited some instances, but we know how those cases have turned out in history. But there are some who've been watching Edo politics with keen interest, and it's interesting to hear their thoughts. They say that this is persecution at its peak for the deputy governor who fought tooth and nail to support his principal, when his principal fell out with the former national chairman of the party, going as far as, using uncouth words, against the national chairman, for which he has apologized, by the way. And they're saying that this impeachment notice is tantamount to using a sledgehammer to kill a fly. After all, he's lost the primary already. What are your thoughts on this, Reverend Martins?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm only hearing from you that he has lost the primaries. The deputy governor does not think that he has lost the primaries. And it is instructional to note that in 2000, when Comrade Philip Shaibu, as he then became president of the National Association of Nigerian Students, I was student union president in Ambrose Ali University. A certain Wale Badmus from University of Ilorin from Zone C, where the presidency was zoned to, declared himself as president of the NANS in some sham, and I collaborated very closely at that time with Comrade Philip Shaibu to make sure that we offered as much resistance at that time in 2000, to Wale Badmus. So I do not think that the deputy governor, the one who is saying so, the deputy governor, as we speak today, and in the most ludicrous manner, considers himself the winner of a so-called parallel primaries that took place. And I tell people that, look, you can't have a parallel primaries all of a sudden. For it to be parallel, there must be a parallel leadership of the party. There must be a parallel, Congress, that emanated, that brought up the candidates, the delegates for the election. So if all of those parallels didn't take place, and then the deputy governor, all of a sudden declared himself, I find it, for me, I don't even know the right word. I don't want to, it was the most ludicrous thing that I ever seen. And I thought it was too embarrassing. If you have a problem, the Latin Martin said, ubi gis, ibi rebellium. The only alternative to rule of law is anarchy. You don't disrespect your party's rules, you don't disrespect your party's organs, you don't disrespect your party's structure, and barefacedly, recklessly, as if we're in a banana republic, gather a certain group of people and say that you are now the candidate, of the PDP. And I say, he is His Excellency.
Reverend Martins.
What it means that His Excellency should do something excellently. I didn't see that.
Reverend Martins, if I may button.
Let me quickly answer. You said a question that the deputy governor fought for the governor, so to speak. Listen, they fought together. The governor also took 3 pages to defend the deputy governor when Governor Wike at that time was at the jugular, of the deputy governor. At any rate, do politicians do anything for free? There's always the principle of what is in it, for me. So let us balance this. When the party thought that they were not going to take Philip Shaibu along with the governor did everything possible to make sure that his deputy governor came, along, with him. And when Wike was at the deputy governor's jugular, I know how the governor stoutly stood against his own colleague at that time, Governor Wike, to defend, the deputy governor. So I don't always like to have, that.
Martins, if I may butt in because of time.
That's why I try to take that balance.
Martin might butt in because of time. It depends on what side of the argument you're looking, and this is the side you're looking at. But some would say, on the other side, that Philip Shaibu has put his life on the line a couple of times for this particular journey. Whether or not he wanted to, he was clear at the very beginning to be governor, discussed that with Godwin Obaseki, the governor. That's between both of them. But let's talk about justice according to law. I don't know what the content or the full content of that impeachment process is. Section 188 that has to do with impeachment process. 188 subsection 2B says, whereas the governor or deputy governor of a state may be removed from office in accordance with the provision of this section. That's the B. 2B says, stating that the holder of such office is, these are the framers of the Constitution, and they were careful with their words, is guilty of gross misconduct in the performance of the functions of his office, detailed particulars of which shall be specified. And the framers were thoughtful to explain what misconduct is and gross misconduct is. After the subsection 11 says, gross misconduct means a grave violation or breach of provisions of this Constitution or a misconduct of such nature as amounts, in the opinion of the House of Assembly, to gross misconduct. What gross misconduct are they bringing against him in the performance of his duty as deputy governor?
Very much. I don't think we should jump the gun. I don't think we should jump the gun. I think we are moving a little bit too fast. The impeachment procedure has at least 8 stages to it. This is the first stage to it, where an impeachment notice is served all of the 24 members. It is instructional to know that the House of Assembly in Edo State is heterogeneous. It is politically heterogeneous. They are not all one party. There are at least, I think there are 13 PDP members, there are 9 APC members, and I think there's 1, House of Assembly member. It's not instructional. 21 members signed. It means that across party, whether it is APC or PDP, because I don't want to argue that it is because of the ambition of the deputy governor. If it were the ambition of the deputy governor, then the APC lawmakers will have no business in it. But I think you are jumping the gun. The first stage is that an impeachment notice is served. Then gross misconduct, that the investigation of the gross misconduct is not going to be carried out by the House of Assembly members. There will be at least 6 people constituted by the chief judge of Edo State who will investigate what the gross misconduct is. So let's not go beyond ourselves. The process, the process has started. Right. In the days to come, in the weeks to come, we will see what constitutes gross misconduct. But the first process has started, and the deputy governor will have a right to defend himself. So
you're saying right now,
what constitutes gross misconduct is preempting the process.
So, Reverend Martins, as it is right now, we don't know what it is all about. Is that what you're saying according to law?
I am saying that by what the House of Assembly, the majority leader of the House of Assembly said, one of the things that he said was that the deputy governor had divulged official secrets of government. I'm quoting Honorable Charity as one of the bases for which the impeachment notice was served. And like the Constitution said, gross misconduct also constitutes, in a manner of speaking, what the House of Assembly terms as gross misconduct in their eyes. But when the committee is set, the committee is set up by the chief judge, because it is a multi-departmental or a multi-level thing. The House of Assembly is also going to be involved in the matter. I also heard the majority leader say that the deputy governor had taken all the arms of government to court. So I'm sure there's going to be a list. But as it is now, this is coming from the mouth of the majority leader of the House of Assembly, and some of these things are considered the basis upon which the deputy governor has been served an impeachment. And in my candid opinion, because in a television interview, 12 days ago, I had opined that the deputy governor, for all of the things that he has been doing, to be impeached. Perhaps it's because he has a cap on his head. Maybe if he had a cap on one side and a head on one side, and he had to choose from one, perhaps he would choose his head. So that's my own personal opinion as an individual. I'm not a member of the Edo State House of Assembly. But in the days to come, the allegations will be reeled out in more clearer terms. A committee will be set up by the chief judge, and then the allegation, as it stands, are the allegations, and the deputy governor will have a right to impeach himself. It's not a one-day process, so I don't think that we should be in a hurry to preempt the outcome of the investigation by the committee that the chief judge will set up.
So if this were a game of chess, he's trying to say that this is just a check and hoping to see the next move of the deputy governor. If he will move his piece back, and retreat and maybe withdraw his candidature in that parallel primary, if, of course, you are a chess person. But the majority leader also talked about perjury, aside divulging state secrets, some of the allegations put forward, and he has 7 days to reply. I'd like us to wind down with this point. You mentioned the FCT minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, and there have been reports that the governor, that's Governor Obaseki, has been trying to mend the relationship between them. You know, he was perceived as disloyal, you know, with the support that the former Governor Wike gave him when he was vying for second term. You know how tumultuous that period was, but, you know, the former governor came through for him and all of that. But then they fell through eventually, you know, war of words and the rest. So speak to us about that relationship. Are they now back in good terms? Because a lot of people had also alleged that the FCT minister was supporting Mr. Shoaibu, all of that in the mix. So tell us about that, Reverend Martins.
Thank you very much. Talking about the game of chess, I played a bit of chess. I think I've seen some of your reels where you played with a king chess player. So I'm sure I'm not at your level, but I expressed, you know, a personal opinion. This is me as Reverend Olu Martin, you know, thinking that if we went for your head, you probably forget your cap. If you have to choose between your head and your cap. But talking about the governor's relationship, maybe I should adjust the word that you use, disloyal. The governor is governor. The Wike was also governor at that time. So you can't really be disloyal to your contemporary. Maybe you can misinterpret. You can say maybe he wasn't appreciative or whatever it is. But I don't think that disloyal is the right word to use, because this is governor, you know, to governor. Nobody is higher, you know, than the other. But
these were opinions that were put out there by, you know, the political watchers and pundits.
You can't use the word.
No, I didn't use it. I am quoting what they said, and they saw them as friends, as colleagues, and the rest, and that was what was out there. I'm just putting that to you.
That's fine. That's fine. But let me talk about addressing your major issue. Like they say in politics, politics is a game of interest. There are no permanent friends, and there are no permanent enemies. A time was where the media was awash with a certain enmity between an Adams Aliyu Oshomole and a Governor Godwin Obaseki. At the last Alagodao, the Adams Aliyu Oshomole, the former governor, Comrade Adams Oshomole, now senator, the former governor, was given an award, and it was at the state dinner, and we saw a rapprochement. So it is politics. Politics is a game of crisis and consensus. Sometimes we differ to agree, and sometimes we disagree to agree, and then sometimes we just go our different ways. So at whatever point in time that the governor and the former governor, they are not enemies. They differed on principle, they differed on perspective, and perhaps they differed on policy. At whatever point in time that they find a meeting point, perhaps they can work together. But come on, it is usually at this level. Like the Bible says, Abraham and Lot didn't have a problem. It was the headsmen of Abraham and the headsmen of Lot that have the problem. Usually it is the followers that have more problem with themselves than the leaders. I'm not sure that Governor Obaseki has a personal grouse with Governor, you know, Wike. They could work together when they could work together. And they can still work together, even for the developers of Nigeria. I'm sure that they work. I'm sure it's nothing personal.
Well, the Holy Book also says, be at peace with all men. But it looks like politicians read another.
As much as, no, it says as much as within you.
Another scripture. So we might be seeing the governor and the deputy governor hugging very soon. Since you say that, I mean, politics is always dynamic. So you can see Governor Obaseki and Comrade Tribal just making up in the coming days. But we'd like to thank you so much. It's always interesting speaking with you, Reverend Olu Martin. Do you have, you know, that comradeship from, you know, university, bringing it into politics and ministry and the rest? Reverend Olu Martin is Executive Director, Canvassers for Democracy and the Rule of Law. Thank you for your time. There you go.
Interesting. So, who achieves checkmate in this political game of chess?
We wait to find out.
You know, in politics, the more you look, the less you see. But if you follow through, you know where this is going and sometimes where this is coming from. So, but let's not break it down. Let's leave it to them to break it down. But we ask questions because we know things. And so their job is to explain all of those things. But hey, it's politics. It's a game, right?
Absolutely.
So
we have to run now.
Yeah.
So you are the people that would eventually decide. So don't be missing when that day comes at the election make sure you make the right choice and you're out there. But we have to run now. It's International Women's Day tomorrow, so we have a lot of preparations to do. I'm Kaido Hikelu.
Looks like someone is making more preparations than the women. We're doing our time check now and we're wrapping up. Join us again tomorrow for that big celebration. I am Bukola Koka.
And don't forget to put up a photo on your DP so you don't have issues that you could have avoided.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
Jeffrey Zama. Bye-bye.
Good counsel.
You would say we didn't help you, right?